With Maad is a segment where we look at solutions to problems utilizing technology. Now, today we're going to look at a system called J.E.M.S, and it was named by us, dubbed Jamaica Emergency Messaging Service. And what J.E.M.S is supposed to do is supposed to provide the authorities or the entities that require the ability to send an emergency message to do it quickly, easily, seamlessly to assist the public in general. J.E.M.S utilizes a feature built into telephone or cellular networks called cell broadcast, which is just sending a text message. Instead of sending it to one phone, you can send it to multiple millions of phones. So how the system works? It's simple. It is comprised of three components. One is a CBE, which is a cell broadcasting entity. Now the entity is just merely whoever has a message to be sent to the phones in general. Then you have the CBC, which stands for the Cell Broadcasting Center. This is usually located at the mobile operator or the cellular company. And this is where they aggregate all those CBE messages that comes in. And based on the content of the message and the area which they require it to be sent, they will then disperse it to the relevant cell towers. The third component of that is, of course, a cellular network, because it functions on a cellular network. So basically it is this. You create a message, you send it to the CBC, which is basically the cellular company. They look at the message and see the area that you want the message sent to, and then they look at their system and they say, okay, we have particular towers that covers a certain area, and based on the message that you sent and the area that you want this emergency message sent to, it needs to go to these cell towers, and they send it to those cell towers. Now what happens, those cell towers can continuously broadcast these messages at intervals, or you can be a one-off message depending on the situation. And what would happen is that as soon as your phone gets into range of those cell towers, the message pops up on your phone. So let me give you some practical scenarios how this would work. We're currently in hurricane season. If hurricane comes, you are cut off because the road is washed out, the bridge is gone. You basically have to listen to the radio, but a lot of times you don't really have power. Generally, your cell phone power might last longer than a radio. Even so, what this would do is on-prem, they would get an application on a computer that they would create the message in, send it to the cellular company's CBC, Cell Broadcasting Center. So on-prem creates this message to say, okay, all you residents in Portland, the bridge is out, you cannot come out. We are going to come to this point, which is closest to you. If you need assistance, please try and make it here. Or these are the shelters that are up and running. This is the situation, whatever the message is. And send it to the CBC. In the message, on-prem would say, this is the area that is affected. What would happen at the CBC? They would then look at their map, because each cell tower controls or covers a particular area or radius. They would look at their map and say, okay, in order to cover this area, we need to send it to these cell towers. So we need to either send it to this particular cell tower or all these cell towers. And then they would send out that message. Everybody who is connected to that cell tower would then get the message popping up on the phone. Alternatively, in some instances, there is the ability to send a message back to the cellular company to say XYZ as well. So that is something else that could be looked at. But in this case, it is an emergency system to send out messages to notify the public. Second scenario could be there's a major accident on Mandela. The police goes there, they assess the situation and say, okay, this is going to cause a massive pileup of traffic because it is rush hour in the morning. Okay, they radio back to base and they say, okay, this is the situation. We want you to send out a broadcast to all the motorists. If you can avoid Mandela, please avoid Mandela. What would happen? Same procedure. So the police station would create a message, send it to the CBC, who then looks at the message, look at the area that is affected by the accident, and then whatever cell towers control that area, they would send it to those cell towers. And those cell towers would broadcast this message. As soon as you're within range of the cell towers, the messages pop up on your phone. The good thing about the cell broadcast technology is that it was designed in the specifications for cellular network. So it doesn't use up your regular network traffic bandwidth. So even if the network is congested to the max, once you send that emergency message, it is almost real time to anybody connecting to those cell towers that those messages are broadcasting from. As a matter of fact, the messages will go to any phone connected, whether or not there's congestion on the network, in the language of the phone. So it doesn't have to be, so if it's a tourist area and visitors come from overseas who don't necessarily speak English, and you send that message, it will pop up on their phone in the language that they understand. Now the system also has some intelligence capabilities built in. For example, if a particular phone has already received the emergency message, then it can not send it to the phone again. So for example, if I had traveled through that area and had gotten the message and I am coming again into that area, it may not send it back to my phone because it says, okay, this phone already got this message. So it has that built in to try and control the amount of traffic or broadcast that goes out and not to annoy people. Because the one drawback to the system is that some phones allow you to turn off the cell broadcast. On some phones, it is not turned on by default, so you would have to go and turn it off. But I mean, as an emergency management system, it would be a simple case of just posting on our website or notifying the public to say, this is how you turn on cell broadcast, because you don't get those messages often. And since it is controlled by the service provider, as long as they are not abusing the system and using it for sending unsolicited messages, then there shouldn't be any issues using J.E.M.S. So I put the question to you, do you think that implementing J.E.M.S is a good idea? We would like you to go to the Facebook page, to the Twitter page, and voice your concerns and your opinion as to whether or not you think this system can work here in Jamaica.